We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadromist. This is Byrne Power coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia on a hot day. It's going to be hot today. And anyway, this is the morning, so I've decided to get this out of the way before I go on with other things. It's come to my attention recently that I've basically passed the 5-year mark in this journey of making videos and talking about different ideas. So I thought I would share a little of the highlights about this journey and just a few things with you, since you, if you're watching this, are on the journey with me. It all started, in a way, back in 2012. In 2012, it was 2009, I think, I started a site, which is, these sites are all still linked below in the description, called the Anadromous Life, referencing the salmon, the Anadromous salmon. They aren't salmon. They're not quote-unquote salmon. However, most of the salmon you find in your supermarkets are salmon. They aren't the real thing, but that's another subject. Anyway, Anadromous meaning swimming back against the currents, trying to get home, probably going to get killed. Well, you are going to get killed along the way. Bears and eagles will be after you, seagulls even. But it seemed like a good analogy for life, that the point of life is not simply to go out to sea and have experiences, but to come home. To come home to meaning, to history, to God, to feel a sense of oneself and one's purpose in the world. And I started writing things down back around, 2009. There's an essay site. I call them essay sites, not blog sites, because blog and vlog just sound so stupid when you say them. I mean, how can anything on a blog site be serious? It's a blog. It's like, bleh. So excuse me if I never call these things blog sites. But anyway, I started writing various things, and I got some good hits. One of the reasons I got good hits is I was very good at picking out photos to accompany what I did. And back then, the algorithms favored the photo searches. They favored also, I could find my stuff easily on Google or whatever just by searching for it. Things have changed, and that's affected this channel as well. But I'm still here. Don't worry about me. Anyway, I started doing that, and I started writing about things like what is American Gothic. I did a series I did one I really liked about the jungle as a metaphor, a symbolic metaphor. Another one on 21st century propaganda, which kind of led to where I would eventually start the Anadromous channel. I also started another essay site in 2012 for Gravity from Above, which is this long-term project I've done, interviewing puppeteers, going and researching places in Europe. And you can find both of these. I think the essays on them still hold up, and eventually I want to make books out of these essays. So the Gravity, eventually around 2012, I started also a Gravity from Above channel. And this is all from my research into the history of puppetry, the meaning of puppetry in our times, and the whole point is having a culture which is about the physical and not the digital. And puppets fit perfectly with that. As I eventually learned, so did dancing. And there are other things. Paint on a canvas as opposed to color pixels on a screen. Anything that is done in reality with the minimal amount of technological assistance, to me, fits my Anadromous idea. So, I started a channel and started putting videos on there of things I witnessed on my trips. Not all of them. I mean, that is to say, I've got lots more than I need to put on there. I've barely put any interviews on there, although there are about 10 right now. I could easily put another 30 on there and not lose any sleep. But then there was... I did that so that I could reference them in the essays. And so they were there. Now, I'll talk about the Gravity from Above channel in a bit, but basically it started in 2012. I never thought for a second about monetizing it, and it still gets no monetization. Though in many ways, it's the most successful channel that I've done. Then sometime I started paying more attention to YouTube around the time of Trump's election in 2016. I said, what's going on here? I started learning about things like Gamergate. I started listening to people, discovered Jordan Peterson. Through Jordan Peterson, I discovered Paul Vanderklay when I typed in the words Jordan Peterson and Christianity. Paul Vanderklay's channel came up almost immediately, which is interesting because I think if you were to do the same thing today, that would not happen. Give it a check. Tell me what happens. So, because now there are so many more channels and things have moved so radically. Back then, anyone who disagreed with the mainstream media hypothesis or propaganda or whatever was basically tarred as some sort of... they always still use the word far right. I've never considered myself right-wing or left-wing. I'm just a person. And anyway, through that I started looking and I started saying, well, if people like Jordan Peterson and Paul Vanderklay can have channels, I can. I've got ideas. I've been sitting on for years. So why don't we think about that? Well, I didn't really think about that until after I had arrived here in Tbilisi, Georgia. And I got a job working to help make a museum of puppets and dolls for the city. Unfortunately, in that process, I also discovered several things, among them how little I would be paid for my work. And I just felt like, okay, this is I can't do this. But I worked there for a while, long enough to get a temporary residence permit, which has lasted 5 years, and which comes to an end in a couple of days here in July. I just found out I'm not getting my permit renewed because I'm not working here and I don't make enough money. I'm a very low rent individual. So, but one of the things I thought immediately when I found out how little I would be paid, and believe me, it was little. It was about, for a month, I would be making the equivalent of one double shift in Alaska in the summer of tourism. So 1 day versus a month. Such is life. And two things happened as a result. One, I said, I'm old enough, I better sign up for some Social Security money, which is what keeps me afloat here. And two, this isn't going to provide right away, but maybe I should... that channel idea, why don't we get that working, and maybe by the end of the year, this was in March, I thought maybe by the end of the year it'll be providing a little something. And it did by the end of the year, even though I don't make any money from YouTube. I don't have a Patreon page. It just comes from people giving to me. And we'll talk more about that and how that works later. But so I started that channel. I also started the Georgian Crossroads channel. This was in 2019. I initiated the Anadromist channel earlier, and one of the things I did was after I'd gotten a couple of videos up, I contacted Paul Vanderklay and said, "Hey, I'm here. You want to talk to me?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And we've had, I don't know, about 6 or 7 conversations there. I eventually met Paul Vanderklay at the Bridges of Meaning Festival in Germany 2 years ago. And so all of that is related to that. But anyway, fortunately, there were people on Paul Vanderklay's channel. His channel is much bigger than mine. But and then there are channels like Jonathan Peugeot's, which are much bigger than his, and Jordan Peterson's much bigger than Jonathan Peugeot. So I started getting people. By the end of the year, I had a few hundred people. Took about a year or so to get 1,000, which was nice. But in fact, even the drips and drabs of money I make here goes along. I make on this channel. I mean, it's a couple $100 a month, $200-300, sometimes $400 or $500. You know, it really depends. But it all stretches out quite far here, and it has been extremely helpful to get that money. So I have been doing these videos for 5 years, and I've noticed certain things. I thought one thing that might be interesting is for you to understand which videos have made the most. Now, interestingly enough, I hit about over a year ago or so, I was closing in on 2,400 people, and it just slowed down. And there were 2 reasons it slowed down. One, I wanted to do more dialogues with people. And the dialogues, some of them, my biggest video ever is a dialogue, which I'll mention in a moment. But some of them, I just get a few hundred people watching, and I like that. I don't mind. What I mind is the fact that the YouTube algorithms just don't care for you anymore. And this has changed since the beginning. And I have noticed that the algorithms have become much more brutal. And if you don't get the right kind of numbers, they stop recommending you. So I thought it might be interesting for you to know the top 10 videos on this channel. And these aren't spectacular numbers. Like I say, I've only got right now a bit over 2,500 people, but it's been going up suddenly. And I think part of that has to do with I've been slowly changing my strategy as far as what I'm doing here. And I did that by opening up another channel. I realized, okay, I'm going to sync this thing for a while, and all my library diaries and the whole thing of trying to raise money to go to Alaska also helped to sync the numbers and just keep, no one wants to come and there's this guy talking about I need money and can you help? You're not going to join that channel. And I understood that very well. So, but here are the most viewed videos. Number 1, with a bullet, is my number 9 Anadromous dialogue with Jonathan Peugeot. And I've had 10,750 people who watched that. Now, what's interesting about that is almost all of that came right at the beginning. And I think a lot of Jonathan Peugeot's people came over here. Some of them were disappointed, and one of the reasons they were disappointed is because at the beginning of that, the first half hour or more, I'm doing most of the talking. Part of the reason for that is I'm mentioning things like the war in Ukraine and stuff, and Jonathan Peugeot, because I think there's a whole Orthodox thing of, he didn't really want to get into it. But he didn't also tell me that exactly, so I just kept blundering through. Eventually we opened up the discussion, and I decided I will talk to him again, but I guess I wanted to finish up my cute and creepy series before I do, which is coming. If you were one of those people waiting for that, I started that a bit after that, and I just I didn't run out of steam as much as I just said, I don't know. And I just had questions, not about the idea, but about what I was doing with the channel. And now I suppose I could have used that because I got a big boost in subscribers at that point. I could have used that to get more, shall we say, high quality dialogues. But the idea of getting high quality dialogues exclusively bothers me. I don't mind having videos that are only viewed a few hundred times, and talking with people who aren't known by anyone in particular. Because they're just people who, for one reason or another, either they get in touch with me and say, hey, Byrne, can I talk? I go, yeah, sure. Or I get in touch with them, like I had the author Lucy Lethbridge talking about her book, Tourists. Because I know I'm working on an overall thing about tourism eventually. So, nevertheless, things have gone well. My dialogue with Paul Vanderklay about 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago or so got quite a few hits, about 1,500 in a couple of days. That was nice. And like I say, you can exploit that. You can just go after, I have tried to get in touch with all sorts of people to talk with them. And for one reason or another, one of the things I didn't understand when I talked to Jonathan Pajot was I actually sent a request to him to talk to him almost a year and a half, 2 years earlier. And his people finally got back to me and said, Jonathan would like to talk with you. I thought I had done something that caught his attention, and so there. And then I realized, this is what I wanted to what I wanted to talk about 2 years ago was different. So now I realize if I want to talk to Jonathan Pajot, have something very directly to talk about. And I think that is the best way to engage. Instead, like I say. So lots of views on that, but I don't expect to repeat that, nor do I expect those views on his dialogue to grow, just because of the nature of the way it went. Number 2 is Hans Rickmacher's What is Reality, which I'm really grateful for. It has just been steadily climbing. It's up to 5,600 now. Eventually, it's just going to pass Jonathan Pajot because Jonathan Pajot's isn't moving. Whereas Rickmacher keeps growing, as do some of these others. 21st Century Cargo Cults is now up to 4,000, which I look at that now and go, it's a bit clunky. It was an early video, but I'm glad the message of it is still very relevant. One of the things I've tried to do, and I think this is one of the reasons why the Jonathan Pajot video will not get that many more views, is because the beginning of it is all about the war in Ukraine. And that just seems too time-bound to people. And as soon as they realize what it's about, okay, I'm out of here. But whereas the Hans Rickmacher 21st Century Cargo Cults, and number 4, what does Owen Barfield mean by final participation, talking about his concept from his book Saving the Appearances, has 3,800. And I think that will keep growing. I was surprised that was doing as well as it was. Then How We Got Here, number 1, the introduction, which is very short. It's like I feel like a drug pusher with this one because, people come, it's only 15 minutes. I can listen to the rest of these. And then, there's one that gets to be 6 hours long and you're going, what did Byrne do to me? And yet I have to keep coming back because I'm getting addicted to this history thing. But anyway, that's got 3,200, which to me makes a lot of sense because it's the first one. So it's the beginning of that series. And that series overall is the most successful thing here on the channel. The next one is, for a long time, this was way ahead of even number 1. And that was How We Got Here, number 7, The Illusions of the 1980s, looking at the pop culture of the 1980s. And I must say, I'm both not surprised and slightly disappointed that this one has the most views of the actual everything apart from the introduction. Because to me it's like, really? Are you that hooked on the insipid culture, overground culture of the 1980s? I'd really like to see the one of the underground culture be much higher than that. But, you can't choose. People get interested in things, and people like that video, so who am I? I made it. So who am I to be disturbed by that? Then we have Joker, King of the Dark Clowns. This is my first video, I think, that I said, let's do this, the Joker movie. I saw it twice. Let's do something. I know about clowns. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. So it's stayed up there, and it's always just kept getting more views. It's now 2,700, and it'll have a new life when the new Joker movie comes out. And one thing I'm going to do is put a variation of it on the Anadrome, the new channel, because it's something those people should watch. And there really is now a difference between the Anadrome people and the Anadromist people. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Then How We Got Here, number 12, The Teens, warning, bridge out, which covers the years 2011 to 2019. That's got 2,600 plus people on it. Now, what's fascinating to me about this one is this is the 6-hour video. So we got the 15-minute one and the 6-hour one, both in the top 10. And of course, one of the reasons why this gets a lot of views is because nobody wants to watch it all at once. And so they keep, coming back. It's divided into chapters. You can come back and watch segments of it. And, if you do it a couple days later, it all adds up for views. Then we have, this is the weirdest one of all, the next one. This is the one I was just like, how did that get here? Cabinet of Curiosities, Lessons from the Wunderkammer, a book review about cabinets of curiosities. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video, as probably many of you have, or at least somebody has. Actually, the truth is, this one's got also over 2,600 people viewing it. I think this, out of all the videos here, maybe the Rookmacher one as well, and the Barfield one, but I think this one escapes the channel. That is to say, there are people who are out there wondering, they hear the concept of the Wunderkammer or the Cabinet of Curiosities. I made sure both words were in there. And then they come to this video. They find it very quickly because there aren't that many videos on the subject. And it's a really fascinating subject. Basically, the origin of museums and also the origin of just objects as being looked at for themselves. And it's just kind of a book review of this very fascinating book I had read. And then number 10, How We Got Here, number 9, the early 90s. Another 2,600. So there's a lot there. And then there's a whole bunch more clogging up the 2,000 to 1,000 category, which is nice. And so there we are. I'm not going to go into all the details. You can do that research yourself if you just go onto the channel page, hit videos, and then put them in popular order. And then you can see the ones at the bottom that I cry over. Now, at the bottom, you'll see things. If I discount anything that's like an announcement or an update, many of the ones at the bottom, there are dialogues with people that nobody knows. Those tend to just kind of hit there. Why don't more people just go through the whole dialogue list? Well, everyone wants to talk to who they want to talk to, or listen to who they want to listen to. And then the one that I'm really disappointed in is the one I put out not long ago called Theatrical Beings in a Fictional World. It's got 321 views. This should have thousands of views. This is one that I put a lot of thought into. And it's a bit odd in its intellectual approach to things. I mean, I've got videos that are far just as intellectual. I mean, the Barfield one, Final Participation, is really intellectual. This one should be up there with it. And if you haven't watched Theatrical Beings in a Fictional World, you really should, because evidently a lot of you haven't. And like I say, it's like, I'm heartbroken because one of my children is being left behind, and they're one of the best children. Anyway, so just to let you know, in 2012, I started Gravity from Above channel. That was already there. That one has some very fascinating statistics attached to it. It has one video. It's got a video that's several videos that are just double digits. And then it's got one that's 190,000. And another one's 150,000. And the more than 11 or so that are above 10,000. A lot of these relate to Georgian music and dance. Also, I've got some that are, 25, 35,000 that relate to puppet history over there. Some of the same videos I put here. Because again, the people who watch that channel, by and large, do not intersect with the people who watch this channel, except for a handful of people, as far as I've noticed. Because most people here on the Anadromist really don't understand. And I think that's the reason why Theatrical Beings in a Fictional World, which I should put over on on Gravity from Above, because some of those people will get it. But the truth is, a lot of people are just absolutely mystified by the whole thing I talk about with puppets and dancing. And, we're too glued to the digital and the virtual, quite frankly. And this stuff doesn't look hot or sexy. It looks weird, creepy, cute, whatever. And but you know what? I'm sticking to my guns. I know I'm right. I know that the importance of culture in the future is to return to the physical and the material objects. And we leave those things aside at our peril. And you put me with anyone in a room and we'll talk about, what's happening in the future. And my feeling is, I don't care what plan you've got. If it doesn't involve the world outside your door, things you can touch, doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So, Georgian Crossroads. I also started this in 2019. I opened the page on the same day as the Anadromist, but I didn't put anything on it for another 4 months or so. And it has about 500 subscribers or more. I haven't really kept track of how many. Not that many. I don't interact with the people over there like I do on the Anadromist. It is, and partly is, sometimes I get Georgians who say, "Oh, this is nice," but they haven't passed it among themselves. And so I'm thinking about this channel, opening it up more into a larger travel channel, since I do travel more. I did put a series of from my Czech adventures over there, and again, hardly anyone found them. I'm stuck. Like right now, I want to make a video about Alaska. I've got some Alaskan videos. Gravity from Above is all documents and documentaries. And I've got some stuff about Alaska over there because I don't know where to put it. Do I put the Alaska stuff here? No. Do I put the Alaska? So I put some of the Alaska stuff on Gravity from Above. But if I want to make a documentary that's more related to visiting Alaska, where should I put that? Maybe on open up Gravity from Above a little more, and rather the Georgian Crossroads. So, I have these things because one of the things is if you put the wrong video somewhere, no one finds it. Now, if I had my druthers, look that word up. If you're not a native English speaker, you're druthers. If I had my druthers, I would hook all the channels up together and just have, you could come and find one section or another. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. And so then there's the strangest and weirdest channel, the one I hid for years, although I opened it up also in 2019, but I didn't do anything with it, except I'd every now and then add a new video and just weird stuff. This is my art channel. And I kind of announced it a couple of years ago. I don't pay attention to it. I don't lose sleep. Every now and then I'll just put some new thing every now and then I'm creating something. Like I created a video of fake Billie Eilish singing a French song by Plastic Bertrand, Sapin Pour Moi, switching their voices. That one has 12,000 views now. I put music stuff there. I put art stuff. That channel is only for my own creativity. So I don't talk about it much on this channel because I'm not interested in promoting myself in that way. That's just like whoever finds it, finds it. I've mentioned it a couple times. I'm mentioning it now. I probably won't mention it for another year or two. That's just how it goes. And then there's the Anadrome, which I opened in 2023. This is the one where I said, okay, I know how to attract people to my channel. And that is to put my media, film, music, other media on one special channel. Because that gets eyes. And it's clear to me on this channel that happens. But I said I need to be more dedicated to doing that. And sure enough, I put a video on there, which probably had a couple thousand views here, on out of the larger How We Got Here series. It was the music edition, #1. I put that over there, and in a week, it had 5,000 views. Part of the reason for that is because I've been connecting more with other music-related people, and I will do film-related people as well. And that channel is going to be for that kind of thing. Those people are looking for things. Whatever it is I'm doing here is something no one's looking for, except now and then they'll find it. And now I just put this 2-part Taylor Swift thing down. The one more related to ideas, to religion and such, I put on this channel because it seemed to fit here. And the one that's just more about Taylor Swift, just the biographical material, is on the Anadrome. This one has actually got more, but there's also more crossover. And coming this week, probably by the time you watch this, on Andy Edwards' channel, Andy Edwards Drummer, I think is the actual name of the channel, he just interviewed me about the Taylor Swift thing. Now, Andy Edwards is a drummer who drummed with Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin in one of his post-Led Zeppelin bands. And his channel's got about 60, 70,000 people or so. So, those people come over. Those are a different kind of people. Those are music people. And they tend to come with really hardcore opinions about stuff they like or don't like. So that's good. I like that. But I don't, and there'll be some crossover. I figure the people who cross over should cross over. And if you haven't watched the first part of Taylor Swift, because what's happened is the Taylor Swift Goddess, Witch, or Christian video here is getting more views than the one over there, which, they're kind of in a race, and they're both getting a lot. I think they'll both have 1,000 views within a week or two, which is great. I'm feeling my stuff now. I'm feeling like I'm back in the game. So the nice thing about that channel is I can do the very specific kind of stuff that people like. And this channel, I can keep doing the dialogues and keep doing the talks with people. So I've also started a Substack. I think I have 5 essays on that right now. I just haven't done much with it. I do have, however, both of the Taylor Swift essays in their complete written form up there if you want to read them instead of watch them, or read them and watch them. I'm thinking about doing a Patreon. If I do it, though, it's going to be for the Anadrome channel, because, like I say, I think that might work better. But it would also be for people here. The problem is, you do something like that, you've got to kind of focus on something. And maybe it's better if I focus on those people. But at the same time, I'm feeling the need from this side, too. I don't have that many people. I have 10, 15 people who contribute regularly every month. It gets low. One wouldn't call it a business really at all. But one of the things that's really heartened me is when I did my fundraiser earlier this year. Yeah, I'm sure I lost some people. I remember one day just watching 15 people dropped out today. Okay. But no, the fact that I raised close to $20,000, and even though, sadly, it didn't work, because at the last minute I found I was $13,000 short. It's just like, So, but that was probably for the best, because there were extra expenses along the way, extra expenses on my travels, extra expenses. And then, I paid for 2 years worth of storage over there. I spent several $1,000s. I'm not sure exactly how much, to send the stuff here, to go through customs, to pick it up here. And I feel so much more energized now that I have all of my journals here, now that I have my art here, now that I have my photos here, and my entire puppet library, as I showed on the last library diary. So, Thank you so much. And what that really tells me is now, I've got 2,500 people watching the channel. Out of those 2,500 people, what, did I get 150, maybe 200 tops? I haven't counted them yet, who gave, but that's about right. Because you got all these people, some people are like, yeah, maybe I'll subscribe to this channel. You got other people who's like, oh, I'm hoping he puts out another How We Got Here. And then you've got the people who are like, anything Byrne does, I'm interested in. And those are the people who give. By the way, if you're one of the people waiting for the Georgian music to come, I haven't forgotten you. I just got so busy and life has just gotten hectic. So you will be receiving this summer very soon, I hope. So just a word on that. Also, I found my a 50-page book that I made through my Reckoning Motions puppet troupe. And it is 3 short puppet plays, and the name of it is 3 Motions. And motion is an old English word for puppet show. You may have noticed by now, I really like obscure words. And I just heard one the other day that I picked up this book that was written in the 17th century, and it was a book written by a Puritan, and where it's a thick book, and he's basically saying how terrible theater is. And I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. And he uses the word escating. And it means something like to be tempting towards lust, which I thought was a very interesting word. I have to think about how to use it better. It's just, I've got to throw that one back. I guess I got to rescue it from the 17th century and throw it back into the mix at some point. So yeah. Also, one of the best things about the Anadromist channel is that it allowed me to get invited to Germany for the Bridges of Meaning conference that was in Landau, Germany back in 2022. That was a great experience. I really loved it. I got a chance to finally meet Paul Vanderklay, plus some other people. I mean, I think people were there more for Paul than for me, but it was great to meet a few people who were like, oh yeah, you do that thing. Because like I say, my channel is more obscure. But out of that, I got the idea for doing this gathering in Georgia, which I did last year, and that worked pretty well. I really enjoyed having these. Turned out it was 6 guys who came, and we spent time in Tbilisi, Georgia, looking at cultural things, and then we went up into the mountains. So right now, I'm actually thinking about, well, what about doing another one this year? I had this puppet festival that I thought we were doing, and I was like, no, it just wasn't the right year for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to go into. So I said, okay, if we're not doing that, then let's do another, maybe anyone who's interested, you've seen the Gathering from Georgia videos, they're here. Go check them out. There's 2 or 3 of them. And I'm thinking this time we'll spend more time in Tbilisi, we'll meet more Georgians, and then we'll spend 2-3 days in the cave city of Vardzia, which is just amazing. This one would require, it's not going to require a lot of physical strength, but it would require you to be able to walk up and down through this mountainous cave. And if that's a problem, you probably shouldn't think about it. But if you can. Now, the last group I had was extremely physical and wanted to climb everything they could see. This is not going to be that group. This is going to be more, we'll call it a more sedate group. Because I need to get some people who don't necessarily want to turn this into a hiking session. But think about it. We will do another one of those in another year after that or so. So, Gathering in Georgia 2, all I want to know right now is anyone interested? If I get at least 6 to 10 people who say, I'm interested, you don't have to, I haven't put out an announcement yet, but if someone just says, I'm interested in the Gathering thing, then I will mentally note that and then start making plans accordingly if I get more than a few people. So, the nice thing is I've got all these DVDs and CDs the CDs, most importantly, Byrne CDs and some DVDs, but I've got my 85-part history of the 20th century that I made for a radio station in Alaska when no one really was watching what I was doing. This is like, I felt like I got away with murder. You'd never find what I did on any sort of normal radio channel, but no one was listening. We weren't streaming then. I don't think I could get away with it now because of the copyright stuff. But then, it's just like, why not? And what I'm thinking that requires is that I build a paywall. And I am going to put up the Three Motions book for sale very soon. I have to send a few envelopes and stuff. There's going to be one center for distribution. The books are already there. There are 30 copies in England, and there are 50 copies in the US, and I've got about 20 copies here. And so if you are interested in that, hang loose. I'm going to have it arranged probably, I hope by the end of the month. My birthday is coming up. I'll be 69 years old. I think I'll invite some Georgians over. But anyway, hopefully before the end of the month, I'll get that done. So what else? I have to self-publish the 5 Masters of Reality. C.W. Weeks read it, and I think it did something to his brain. He really wants to talk about it. But then again, everyone who's read it and gotten all the way through it has just said, oh, what did that do to me? Which was my plan. So, but the most important thing was I got the Longhouse here. And it's all handwritten. I've got about 1/8 of it edited and transferred to the computer. The rest of it is all handwritten. And I'll be discussing that more. But that's before the end of the year. I need to get that done because that's the book I think will sell. The 5 Masters of Reality I'm considering to be a calling card. And when it comes out, I'm just going to have it up on Amazon for a while. And then eventually I hope someone will show interest in both books and we'll get it officially published. But when I do the pay-per-view, what is it? Pay-per-purchase on Amazon, pay-per-print. Anyway, there's some word like that. Then you can buy it and realize that you have something that will become very rare. So, this all brings us to this. Why do I do this? Evidently, it's not for the money. Although the $20,000, but there are lots of YouTubers who make lots more money in a lot shorter time. And that was, like I say, that money was predominantly supposed to be for just bringing my library from Alaska. I did something else a few years ago which helped me to find this apartment and such. And in a couple more years, I've got to get that stuff, the rest of my library. And it's become very important to me because I realize that the environment that they're in will degrade the quality of the books and music over time because there's enough humidity in the air to create a problem. And the way it is right now is I've got to get a dehumidifier in there if I can do that with the permission of the owners of the storage place. So, yeah, but even still, I'm living a low-grade existence, but I don't do this for the money. Any more than I started my original Anadromous Life essay site for the money, which, like I say, is still there, and I think I'm going to throw a few more essays up there and on Gravity from Above. I have them, but they just need to get up there. But the point is this. No, I do it because I've got too much stuff that I've been working on all of my life. Like I said, I'm going to be 69 in a couple of weeks here, and or finishing 69. People say yes, now I'm, 15 years old. Now I'm 25. Now I'm 30. No, you've accomplished that number. You're starting 31. When you hit 30, you're not starting 30. You're starting 31. Because when you're born, you're starting 1. Yeah, and people get kind of confused and cutesy about this stuff. But no, it's been about the fact that I've had all these ideas that I wanted to share, and it's a responsibility. It's like, okay, I'm getting older, I can be qualified as old now. So, hey, I've got too much stuff running around in my head that I need to get out just to say I've been responsible for what I've been doing with myself. That it's not been about simply watching videos or listening to music. That it's been about coming up with an observation on the world around me. And maybe, just maybe, that matters to someone else. And so, I don't care if someone watches all of my videos or reads all of my essays or anything. I care about the person who's watched one and written to me. There was a girl who just wrote to me and said, I mentioned the whole Taylor Swift as witch conspiracy, and she wrote to me and said, your take. I used to make videos about Taylor Swift being a witch, and now I realize your take on it is probably the most Christian thing I've seen on Taylor Swift, and that made me feel really good, because that's what it's about. It's about touching individuals. It's not about the size of the audience. And if anything, what I realized through this whole fundraising thing that I went through, which, believe me, was work. That was part of what wore me down before I got to Alaska, was just waking up at 3 in the morning or 5 in the morning, or going to bed at 1 in the morning to try to communicate these ideas and to try to see if I could raise some money. And we had a good time talking to each other. Those who participated know what I'm talking about. And I'm thinking, maybe we should do that some more. Maybe like December of every year. What do you think about this idea? December of every year, we just have a few, let's make it a little bit about fundraising, but let's make it more about connecting. And what do you think? Do a couple of things around that. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not suggesting that this is actually what I'm going to do, unless someone says, yeah, Byrne, that sounds like a great idea. Then I'll start thinking about it. So there we are. Now, you know what's interesting about this channel? Well, I've enjoyed both meeting a few people in the flesh, the people who came here, people at the Bridges of Meaning, a few people who actually live in Tbilisi, and I have enjoyed meeting you through the screen. And my life feels richer having all of you in it. Also, there have been surprisingly few trolls and assholes who showed up in the comment sections. I suspect the other channel, the Anadromist, might pick up a few of those, more of those, because there are people who have all these ridiculous ideas about music, and if someone suggests anything else, they get up on their hind legs and say, you're wrong, you're stupid, and there are those people. But anyway, on this channel, it's been very rare to have someone that I've had to feel like I need to block or just simply like ignore. And usually it comes with either, I'll do that if they just their comments just start getting so ridiculously biting and sarcastic, or contemptible, where they look at everyone else with contempt. Those people I will block. Or I did have one person this year who was just, basically saying, watching the videos of me in Alaska and talking about, you're basically saying, you're just old and pathetic, and what are you doing? You don't need your books, you don't need all this stuff. Just give up and just enjoy the rest of your life. It's kind of like, no, sorry, I'm not being put out to pasture till I'm dead, basically. So that's life. But at first I didn't mind it, but then it started, this particular entity, shall we call it, started following me around and showing up. So I said, okay, this has gone too far. I can take a little bit of challenge, but when it just becomes a sport, no, I'm done. And so I look forward to continuing all of this. Will I go for another 5 years? Maybe. I might take some breaks to finish up my novel writing and such like that. And I am interested in doing more gatherings here. So if anyone's interested in this November, let me know. Otherwise, I will think about doing another one the year after that. But November is a great time here. The weather is not too cold. Where we're going, it's just beautiful. But also Tbilisi is is filled with art and culture at that time. There are people who've wanted me to do it in the summer because they're connected to schools and stuff. And all I can say is, summer is the worst time for anything. It is. Why do people travel in the summer? Because we're connected to the educational system. I get it. But truthfully, traveling in the summer in Europe, traveling here in the summer, oh, God, no. Summer here is like winter in Alaska. It's time to avoid. Come in the fall, come in the spring. This June has been really good. July and August will not be so good. But September, it starts getting good again. So you learn that. And November is a great season here. It's very mild. And we still will be able to go into a mountainous area in November, and it'll be great. So think about that. And I have to edit The Longhouse. This is priority number 1. I would have finished it by now, given the whole pandemic and everything, if I had it here. But now I've got it, and now there are no more excuses. Well, anyway, I have nothing but gratitude for all of you, and I am really grateful. And thanks for putting up with me and allowing me into whatever sliver of your life you have allowed me into. And we will indeed meet again. Droebit.
A people without history is not redeemed from time. For history is a pattern of timeless moments.